We're starting today's report with a close-up look at the IDF's current deployment along the yellow line in the Gaza Strip and some of the problems that they're dealing with in that location. Carried out a targeted strike and eliminated a terrorist who planned to carry out an attack against IDF forces in the center of the Gaza Strip. The IDF statement said, amongst other things, that led by the Southern Command and by the means of the Air Force aircrafts in the Nuseirat area in the center of the Gaza Strip, a terrorist from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist organization who planned to carry out terror attacks in the immediate time frame against IDF forces was terminated. The interception was carried out after the Shin Bet and the military intelligence gathered information on the terrorist intentions. This is an example of the kind of proactive operations that the IDF sometimes carried out in order to stop terrorist attacks before they start. It is not yet clear if this will become a routine event, but some IDF field officers are already speculating that this will likely become the new normal that will characterize the actions along the yellow line in the Gaza Strip. And as previously reported, the IDF has also marked the yellow line with concrete markers that should make it easy for Palestinian civilians to avoid crossing it by mistake and prevent claims about doubt regarding enforcement by fire. And in related news, Defense Minister Israel Katz revealed in a meeting that he held with Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, during his visit last week to Israel, that over 60% of Hamas's tunnel infrastructure remains intact, nearly 2 years after the outbreak of the war in the Gaza Strip. And according to security officials, some of the exits through which Hamas terrorists operate are located on both sides of the yellow line, meaning that these areas are under Israeli control and Hamas can just pop out of tunnels. One of those tunnels was used last week by the terrorists who carried out the terrorist attack in which Major Yaniv Kola and Staff Sergeant Itai Yavetz lost their lives during a Nahal Force operation in the area of Rafah in the southern parts of the Gaza Strip. And Katz reportedly told Vance that destroying the tunnels is the most important task in demilitarizing Gaza. In accordance with the Trump plan, we must prepare for a broad and comprehensive operation that will bring a complete end to this threat. And he added that we must bring back all the remains of the hostages that were murdered by Hamas, eliminate the terrorist infrastructure, and ensure that Hamas does not return to power in the Gaza Strip. And the IDF emphasizes that even during the current ceasefire, engineering operations to destroy tunnels across the Gaza Strip continues. Explosions were heard in recent days in the Gaza periphery, the area surrounding Gaza, that stemmed from these operations, which are carried out according to the existing security agreement. And security officials estimated already that about 6 months ago, only a quarter of Hamas's underground systems has been eliminated so far, while a large number of smuggling tunnels from Egypt to Gaza continue to be used to transfer weapons and military equipment. Israel's refusal to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor stems in part from concern over deepening smuggling routes, but experts warn that control of the corridor alone does not prevent digging beneath it. And here, TBNS's avoidance of advancing the transfer of the remains of the Israeli hostages that were murdered in captivity, Israel's political echelon decided not to allow the opening of the Rafah border crossing for the movement of Gazan civilians seeking to enter or exit the Gaza Strip, and this also follows the decision not to allow the entry of aid trucks from Egypt through the Rafah border crossing. Rather, the Egyptian trucks will arrive at the Kerem Shalom crossing in Israel, and from there, the goods are inspected for security and transferred into the Gaza Strip from the Israeli crossings. Israeli intelligence assesses that Hamas knows where most of the remains of the hostages are located, and they can do it. They can deliver them to Israel, but they prefer not to. And Hamas did not hand over any additional remains of the fallen hostages. During the day, the security establishment assessed that there was a probability of releasing the remains of 2 fallen hostages at 9 p.m., but around 8:30 p.m., the IDF understood that the event would not take place after no indication was received in the hours before that Hamas would carry out this transfer. In the background, United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a statement while he was visiting the coordination center in Kiryat Gat in Israel that we will not stop applying pressure until the last of the fallen hostages return to Israel. He also said, "We have many reasons for healthy optimism. I wanted to come to understand the work, the needs. You see, a lot of uniforms here, also from partners and other countries around this region, and the Israelis hosting all of us. That's an important part. This is a historic mission. There are no examples of it because something like this has not happened before." Note that Hamas spokesperson Hazem Qassam declared over the weekend in a post that he published on his Facebook page that the terrorist organization calls to accelerate the establishment of the agreed-upon committee that will take responsibility for managing the Gaza Strip so that it can carry out its task in rehabilitating the area. The statement comes after Qassam early affirmed that Hamas is fully committed to the details of the ceasefire agreement that was achieved through mediators and their efforts, while emphasizing that the organization wants the agreement to succeed and be implemented in practice. However, United States President Donald Trump spoke on Saturday evening shortly after he met with Qatar's leaders when he landed in Doha on his way to Malaysia.
Why would you crush up perfect?
Hamas will have to return the fallen quickly, including the 2 Americans, otherwise the other countries will take action. There are fallen who are difficult to reach at this moment, but others can be reached, and for some reason it's not happening. Let's see what they do in the next 48 hours. I'm following this very closely. And during the meeting, President Donald Trump also praised the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, calling him one of the great rulers in this world, not just in the Middle East, adding that he is loved, admired, and respected by his country. He also added, if the ceasefire does not hold, it will be Hamas's fault, and it will be quite simple to destroy them. They gave their word, and therefore, I think it will hold. If not, it will be very bad for them. The international force is being established these days. Qatar will send forces that we need. The multinational force for Gaza will be ready very soon, according to Trump. And the president also referred to Qatar's role in regional efforts, saying, "We have done much together in the past year especially. What we have done is incredible. Peace for the Middle East, and they were a very important factor in that." He noted that it is a great privilege to host you on the plane. You do not do this often, and I do not think that he has ever done it before, according to Trump. For his part, the Emir expressed his gratitude to the president for the unusual hosting and the warm relations. As Trump noted, Qatar had a central role in the negotiations that led to the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and relations between Qatar and the United States only strengthened following the Israeli strike in Doha after President Trump signed an executive order on a defensive alliance with the Qataris and announced the establishment of a training facility for Qatari pilots in the United States of America. The last detail led to some backlash amongst the president's supporters, but the Pentagon said that the plans for this facility have been in motion for some time now, and this is not unusual for American allies to have access to military training facilities in the United States. Now, getting back to Gaza, the Israeli intelligence assesses that Hamas holds 8 fallen hostages and does not know the location of the other 5 fallen. The international task force to locate and to return the fallen has not really begun its work, and the Americans continue efforts to assemble this force. An Egyptian team entered the Gaza Strip over the weekend, together with an earth-moving equipment and other tools. And Israel also provided this team with coordinates for the best places to look for additional sets of remains. The green light for the Egyptian team was given after, in the past week, Israel prevented the entry of 81 personnel from Turkey.
This video
Media portals that Egypt will provide logistical assistance and equipment that will help determine the location of the bodies of the Israeli hostages in light of the destruction in the Gaza Strip. It is also important to point out that the entry of the Egyptian team was agreed upon in talks that were led by Israel and the Egyptian intelligence chief Hassan Rashad, who came to the country of Israel last week for an unusual visit. An Israeli security team also visited Cairo in Egypt over the weekend to coordinate all of this. The Egyptians, whose president Abdel Fattah el-Sisi expressed his commitment to returning the fallen, are expected to be the central party leading the searches for the Israeli fallen. Israel also asked the Americans to set a deadline for the return of the fallen before imposing sanctions on Hamas, but until that post by Trump, the Americans oppose this, even though they agree that Hamas is bluffing. The American concern is that significant sanctions will lead to the collapse of the agreement, and therefore they prefer to let diplomatic pressure do its work. Since Sunday, a week ago, Israel has significantly delayed the opening of the Rafah border crossing as a clear sanction until the return of the fallen. But the Americans are meanwhile opposed to imposing additional sanctions, such as renewing the strikes against Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip. And here, at TV in Israel, we will continue to report on all the developments in the Gaza Strip. In the Gaza Strip. It was revealed on Saturday evening by the New York Times media portal that the United States military is operating drones over the skies of the Gaza Strip, monitoring the implementation of the ceasefire agreement. And according to the report, the drones are tracking ground activity in the Gaza Strip area with Israeli approval. And they are also assessing the activity of the American headquarters in Kiryat Gat, an Israeli city. It was also reported that contrary to previous times when the United States flew drones over Gaza for the purpose of locating hostages, the aim of the scans this time is to understand what's happening on the ground in the Gaza Strip independently of Israel. The United States Department did not respond to questions about the drones, and the IDF likewise refused to comment. However, a former American diplomat, as well as an American and Israeli official, expressed surprise at the drone scans across the Gaza Strip, given the close security cooperation between Israel and the United States militaries. Dan Shapiro, who served as the United States ambassador to Israel under the Obama administration and the United States envoy to the Middle East under the Biden administration, said that this is a very intrusive version of American monitoring on a front where Israel identifies as an active threat. Shapiro also said, if there were full transparency and full trust between Israel and the United States, there would be no need for this. But the United States clearly wants to rule out any possibility of misunderstandings. And now we are switching our focus to the northern arena